Good evening. This is Philip Cogg. I hope you're well and don't be misled by the title of this. Explore the joys of confession psychoanalysis, good old fashioned gossip. This is going to be a very serious session. Hi, Jan from Poland, James from Pennsylvania, Carla and Julia from London, and Atle from Norway, Adnam, and Daniel from Germany. Great to see you all. Stephanie and I were invited by Opus Dei to visit them in their headquarters a few years back. As we were shown around their church, which is in an enormous block, kind of 1950s block in Rome, just near the Vatican. And you go downstairs to the underground car park, and there is the Opus Dei Central Church. And it's got stained glass windows. Light seems to be streaming through, but it's actually in the basement. It's false light. One of the things that surprised me, and I asked our guide who was showing us around, why there was the whole side of the wall. There were banks of booths with doors all the way down the side of the church. He explained that confession is used a great deal in Opus Dei, that unburdening your soul and confessing your sins was a big part of the Opus Dei training. And as you know, there are these rather strange booths with a kind of grill that you speak through. There's an extraordinary film called Calvary, which begins with that. Very powerful, incredible storytelling in that film. And it's a big part of Christianity, as we all know. What happened when psychoanalysis came along, Freud came, and psychotherapy in general, but I guess, let's start with Freud. And this gives me an excuse to play with my red couch, which is a puppet, a finger puppet. And, the whole thing with psychoanalysis was that you lay on the couch and your analyst would talk to you from behind. So you can't see the analyst because you're lying down and he or she is listening to you and recording everything you're saying. You're not distracted by looking at their face. You unburden yourself. And both in psychoanalysis and church confessions, there's, of course, a tremendous relief can come from unburdening oneself. And that's what is appealing about gossip in a way. There's a way in which when you're sitting with a friend around the kitchen table, you allow yourself to confess that you can't stand that man who works in the baker's shop or that woman who works in the cafe. You might even confess major things to your friend over a cup of tea. If we trace the evolution of that, we see that's gossip, if you like. It's unfair to call it gossip, but we should call it intimate conversation with a friend. Unburdening oneself is something that goes way back in time and is a basic human instinct and drive, I'd suggest. The church came along, formalized it, and offered rewards, absolution. Psychotherapy came along and didn't offer absolution, but offered some kind of healing instead. Then we had radio confession, where people would confess on phone-ins in public, unburdening themselves. Now we have social media, which gives people the opportunity to unburden themselves in public if they wish. The difficulty, of course, is there are no boundaries. And the difficulty with gossip or sitting around with a friend around a kitchen table is the boundaries aren't clear either. And what's that? There's something called the Cambridge Rules or the Chatsworth Rules, which is some clever joke about if somebody confesses it to you, you're allowed to tell it to one other person, which means, of course, it spreads. This is all leading up to me making a confession to you. But before I confess, let's look at this some more, because I think it's actually underrated or missed. We need to give it some consideration, and it's not really considered within Druidry or within paganism, because there's quite naturally a reaction against this whole idea of confession and sins and all the rest of it. If we take the question of sin out of it and just talk about what burdens the heart, then it seems clear we know that to unburden the heart is good. And ideally, we have close relationships within which we can unburden our hearts. But Not everybody has close relationships. Sometimes it can feel too risky or too painful or render you too vulnerable. This is where I believe our Druidry can help because we can unburden ourselves nature. We all know how going for a walk can free ourselves up. It's as if we're in a kind of dialogue with the natural world. We can hug a tree and whisper our secrets to the tree, or we can get in contact with beings in the other world in our meditations where we can unburden ourselves and share that which troubles us if that's what we feel we need to do. Luckily, with the kind of psychological literacy that we've been developing culturally in the modern world, people are more aware of the value of not bottling stuff up and holding it inside. What the church did, which was very clever, was having this concept of absolution, which was of forgiveness. Of course, we can apply that in its deepest, most profound sense. It's very beautiful and wonderful. The offering of absolution by saying 10 Hail Marys, doing some charitable works for some crime is another question. One very clever journalist thought of a wonderful way to write a bestseller. He went into confession boxes in churches in Italy and told the same story to each priest, that he was involved in some kind of mafia contract to build a local sports stadium that was dodgy and fraud. He recorded with his voice recorder the response of the priest on the other side of the grill, put them all together and turned it into a book, which became a bestseller in Italy, apparently. So what I'm going to confess to you now is about meditation. Thank you, Pamela. I knew there was another meaning for gossip, which is talking comfort. And there is a great comfort, of course, that can be had from unburdening oneself and sharing one's secrets. Gossip, as with many of these things, gets turned around. I was giving a talk this weekend about another similar word that got turned around, which is weirdness. Weird means odd and unsettling in modern language, but prior to the 19th, 18th century, it meant fate and destiny. So words get distorted. Gossip now is generally considered a bad thing, but in the old days, it was considered comforting. And I think we all get, when we, as we mature, we develop a sense of what's appropriate gossip, how far we can go in offloading and sharing our deeper feelings with someone, and at what point it becomes unpleasant, malicious, unnecessary, or counterproductive. Here's my confession. I don't meditate regularly. There's a way in which I have often felt that this was an obligation of somebody following a spiritual path, that you should meditate regularly. You're often told to in spiritual teachings. But what I've found is that I just can't keep it up. My life moves in waves and cycles. So I will feel drawn to meditating, and then I'll meditate every day for a number of days, weeks, or months. But then at some point, life will take me in some other direction. My energy, my attention, my psychic will be perhaps drawn outwards, and I'll be really focused on a creative project, and I won't meditate for days, for weeks, or for months. What I find so interesting is the way that we create rods for our own back. We create rules to live by, which obviously have a value in terms of helping us navigate and speeding things up. You have various rules to keep you going, so you don't have to make a huge, big decision about everything. But they can so easily become rods for our back, which takes me back to that Opus Dei, that church in Rome, is not only where were the members of Opus Dei confessing like crazy in all those rows of booths, but they were also beating themselves in the evening and having that tight thing around their thighs with little teeth that would bite into the thigh to try and control lascivious thoughts. So again, rules. I wanted to share that with you in case it was applied for you as well. I'd like to hear whether you meditate regularly too. Do tell me whether you have found over the course of your life that it helps you to have a rule that says, I will meditate regularly to give you the discipline you need to keep going, or whether you find that you meditate cyclically as well and you have periods when. So do tell me that. I'd just be interested to know as a kind of how people feel. There's a nice mentioning that Hildegard said we can confess in nature even when a priest is not near, according to Hildegard of Bingen. Uh, How do you relate to this idea of confession? Does it freak you out? And do you think the whole thing's rather unpleasant because of your experiences with Christianity? Do you find there's a healthy and beneficial aspect to it that you perhaps work with? Do share that if you can. And also share about your meditation, whether you've created a rule for yourself to meditate regularly and then feel guilty when you don't do it regularly. And the important thing is that Star Catcher says meditation is a part of my daily life. The really important thing that I want to say is because everybody, our needs are different. And for some people, I'm not creating the opposite kind of rod, which is to say, if you don't meditate cyclically and you do it every day, you're doing something wrong or you shouldn't be. Of course not, because for some people, meditating regularly, daily, may well be precisely what they want, what they need, and it's not imposition at all, and so on. So let's move from these topics to the time of year we're in, which is this wonderful time of Imbolc. And here in southern England, snowdrops and the crocuses are out. I've even seen daffodils out. So this Imbolc, this first taste of spring, is just beginning. I've been at various Imbolc festivities over this weekend. The reason I mentioned this idea of cyclical meditation is because I haven't been meditating for a couple of months. I've been really focused on some creative projects. And I find myself going in and out as I do creative things. And that works for me. But now I'm feeling drawn back into meditating regularly again. I thought, that's interesting. It's around Imbolc time. I wonder if there's a connection. So I thought, let's do a meditation with an Imbolc scene. I know those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, it's lunar time, the harvest time. But let's do a meditation where we go into the grove and just enjoy that sense of life in the soil and in the plants. If you're feeling like some meditation, do join me. And let's begin by becoming aware of our surroundings here. Hundreds of us all over the world sitting in our homes or other places, looking at a screen, knowing in our consciousness that we're connected all over the world. There are people from New Zealand here, from Austria, from Iceland, South America. It's lovely. And we're all somehow connected through this. And so we can just gently close our eyes, sensing that connection. And then just allowing our awareness of being fully present in front of the screen to be here. Also allowing ourselves to perhaps imagine that we're entering the sacred grove, this lovely idea of the clearing in the wood or the forest, where druids and friends of druids go to gather in peace, to connect with nature, to relax, and to become in tune with the elements. And so as you sense yourself coming through the forest, perhaps, your thoughts gradually clearing and settling as you emerge into the clearing, and you sit on the earth And you just allow yourself to feel the earth and to let go of all tensions. Breathing deeply in and breathing deeply out. Some nice long, deep breaths. Becoming aware of the earth beneath you. Sensing all the life in the soil, the rocks, the minerals and crystals, features in the earth, and the moisture in the earth. You can feel the energy of the earth gently rising up into your body, bringing with it a sense of stability and tranquility. You become aware of the presence of the trees around you, and you sense them rooted deep in the earth, their trunks rising up, their boughs and branches high in the air. You sense the power, the protection, the presence of these tree beings. As you breathe in, you notice that you're breathing in through your nose the smell of the trees and of the forest. You become aware of the sky above you. And you breathe in the energy of the sky, breathing in its vitality. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And now I'd invite you just to imagine you're opening your inner eyes and you're seeing a tiny plant growing in front of you, just a few feet in front of you on the ground. Just enjoy looking at it and being with it. You may see it clearly, or you may just have a sense of it. However you perceive it, just allow it to be there. Play with your imagination. Just sense its leaves. You can even sense the roots. You can see the roots going into the soil of this little plant and empathize with it. You can sense the way it's growing in the earth, the way it's drawing up this incredible strength in this tiny plant that enables it to draw moisture. Just tune into that strength for a moment. Just ask yourself what it feels like. If you can feel the kind of dogged determination of this little plant as it draws the moisture up into its stem. And notice how, as you sense that determination, you might feel your heart opening. You love this little plant. It's a little living creature with all its being focused on drawing these nutrients up its stem, into its leaves and its flowers. And allow your feelings of admiration, of gratitude, of benevolence, of care. I think it would be fair to say that all of us doing this meditation care about this plant. We love this plant. And then from that focus with the plant, just allow that sense of care and love. Just now raise your eyes or your attention from the plant to the whole grove and imagine your love and your care spreading out around the whole grove. And you might sense your companions in the grove seated in a great circle. You sense your love and your care for them. You might sense otherworldly beings, spirits, fairies, nature spirits. You sense your love for all these beings, for the trees, for the earth, for the sky above. May all life be blessed. May all beings be blessed. Placing your hands on the earth, you send blessing to the land. You then move your hands up to your heart, feeling the warmth of your hands on your heart. And gradually you allow your awareness of the sacred grove to fade as you become more and more conscious of being fully present in front of your computer or your television or screen. Just allowing your awareness of the grove to fade, becoming fully present here and now. Eyes open. Thank you so much. That was lovely to be with you. If you feel moved to recount your experiences, please do. Thank you for being here. I look forward to seeing you next week. So, happy Emol, happy Lunasa if you're in the Southern Hemisphere.